If you're new to music production and trying to get the hang of all the tools that are out there to get your music sounding how you want, you're in the right place. Today we're going to look at EQ, short for equalizer. What does it do, when to use it, how to use it? These are the questions we're going to answer. We're also going to look at some plugin options that I like to use and talk about different types of EQ plugins and how to choose the right one. What does it do? Let's start by looking at a modern equalizer plugin. Just as a demonstration, I'm using Tone Booster's Equalizer 4, but any plugin that broadly looks like this will generally work the same way. What we have here is a graph consisting of two axes that displays audio information in a visual way. We can label the x-axis frequency and the y-axis volume. So the higher something is in pitch, the further to the right it will be displayed, and the louder something is, the higher up it will be on the y-axis. Here are some examples. The tones we just heard are called sine waves. These are pure vibrations of air that can be generated by a synthesizer, and their pitch only corresponds to one exact frequency. More natural sounds will always look more complex on an equalizer graph. Now that we know how to read information off an equalizer, we can go back to our first question. What does it do? The line in the middle of the EQ lets you adjust the volume of different parts of the frequency spectrum independently. So instead of making the whole audio signal louder or more quiet, you can do this with only selected areas of the frequency spectrum. I would say the application of EQ can be broken down into the following three use cases. 1. Sound design. 2. Cleanup, and 3. Mixing. The most intuitive way to me is to see EQ as a tool to shape sounds. We can make something brighter, or we can make something darker. Or we can go crazy and use it as a creative effect. Generally speaking, there are no rules. Do whatever you want, go nuts. Listen to the sound you're working with, think about how you might want to change that sound, and try to achieve it. Or just twist knobs, drag notes, do whatever, and see if you like the result. There is no wrong way to use an EQ. There are no rules. But there is experience and maybe something we could call wisdom. Generally speaking, we can say that things sound more natural when they are processed less. Another guideline is, not everything needs EQ. Another help in using EQ and deciding where you might want to boost or cut something is to get familiar with how different frequency ranges sound and what common terminology is used to describe them. We can find helpful charts to start learning these terms in EQs like equalizer or fast EQ. Here we are already getting into the second use case for EQ, cleanup. Some signals might have noise, harshness, unwanted sounds, resonances, mud, frequencies peaking out too much, or with one word, problems. Some of these problems can be solved with EQ. One of the most common things people do with EQ is high pass tracks. Rumble in the low frequencies can build up in a session with many tracks and start competing with the low frequencies from kick and bass. So a thing to try in a mixing session could be to high pass all tracks except drums and bass, and then see if that improves the mix. Don't go too high with the cut though. That's a good opportunity to look at the frequency analyzer. Also always listen to what it is you are cutting, especially if you are still developing your skills. Aside from this, there might be other frequencies that you want to get rid of. Oftentimes a little cut with a bell filter might already make the problem go away. Other times you might want to go for a notch filter, but especially working with virtual instruments, I think this will be a very rare occasion. Also, before going nuts with cutting frequencies, make sure there is even a problem noticeable while listening to the full mix. This leads us nicely into our third use case for EQ, mixing. Something an EQ can help with is fitting together tracks so that they sit better in the mix and don't compete. A common technique would be something like boosting an important frequency on the kick drum and then cutting the same frequency on the bass. And then boosting an important frequency on the bass and cutting the same on the kick. This technique can be used on any instruments that might be competing, such as guitar and keys, different vocal layers, or synth pads and a lead vocal. This is not something that is generally necessary though, but it's a good tool to have in the toolbox. Just try it out if in doubt. A more widely used application of the same philosophy would be to just boost a specific frequency of a lead vocal, for example. This could help it stand out of a mix more. The last thing I want to talk about is, which plugin should you use? EQ plugins can look vastly different, but regarding EQ, they all do the same thing. Some of them don't have a graphic display though. Still, you're controlling which frequencies are boosted or cut, just with a different set of controls. This can nicely be visualized with Bertham's EQ curve analyzer. Your DAW's stock EQ will probably be able to fill all your needs. But if you want to try some other ones, 3 options I can recommend are equalizer. This one is great for general use and comes with handy charts. TDR Nova is equally as great and even comes with dynamic functionality. TDR Variety of Sound Slick EQ is great for fast and easy tone shaping. And if you want a paid but cheap and fully featured nice looking option, you could check out Tone Booster's Equalizer 4. If you want to spend a bit more money and want fast and easy results, there are also some more expensive smart options like Fast Equalizer, Isotope Neutron, or Sonable's Smart EQ. And of course the most popular and pretty much industry standard Pro Q3 is also a good choice if you want to spend the money. Personally, I very rarely use hardware emulation EQs, but feel free to try anything Analog Obsession. They offer many amazing free plugins. Honestly though, the most interesting reason why you might want to use an analog emulation EQ is probably the saturation. A very complex topic in its own right that I won't dive into in this video. Alright, I think this is plenty of information for a first lesson on EQ. There is always more to learn and luckily there are plenty of tutorials on YouTube. But the most important thing, go try things out. As I said, there is no wrong way to use an EQ. Trust your ears, but also don't be afraid to use the graphic display. But always try to keep improving, I guess. And if you want more courses like this, a bit lighter, fun videos about music production and free plugins, then you should consider subscribing. Feel free to leave any questions you might have in the comments.